in this day and age, so much is kind of all merging together. And it's kind of a big bowl of spaghetti. It seems like things are so tangled up. One nation is involved in another nation, and economically and religiously, and so many other ways. It seems in so many ways convoluted. And it's hard to kind of understand where things are developing, how things are shaping up, and where we should be looking. But I would strongly encourage you to be looking towards the Middle East. And I personally believe that a lot of the things that we are seeing are setting the stage for the last days. And I think that there are multitudes of people, even in our churches, that really don't understand the urgency of this hour of human history and where we are. And on Thursday nights in some of my sessions, and some of our other teachers are really sharing about the urgency of what is taking place in our world, and that we should have an urgency and a boldness as we share our faith, we come in contact with others around us. We don't want to set dates, we don't want to be sensationalistic, we don't want to sound alarm bells unnecessarily, but where we have legitimate bases for looking at these events and saying, hey, we're really moving rapidly toward the end of the age, I think we need to be sounding that alarm bell. I want to draw your attention to what's going on in Syria right now. If you're watching the news, you know there's a lot happening in Syria, and of course, we know a lot about the Syrian refugees, and we know about ISIS over the last several years and what was taking place. ISIS, at this point, is, depending on the sources you listen to, is 90 to 100% eradicated. They have been really restricted and moved back into small pockets of areas of resistance, and that's a good thing. Of course, they've done tremendous damage. So many lives have been lost. People have been evicted from their homes. They have lived under a tyrannical type of a terrorist system, and it's tragic for so many people who have just wanted to live their lives and raise their children and families, and have had to leave as refugees and flee for their lives. And there are countless stories of what has taken place, which is just tragic. However, I want to call your attention to something else that I think is significant in Syria, and that is the invasion of Turkey across the border into northern Syria this past week. How many of you have heard about that? Probably very few, because our news networks haven't said very much about it, because there's a lot going on domestically, and of course we had the State of the Union this week. But that is a very significant development, that Syria, their official military, has moved across the border, their southern border, Turkey have moved across the border into northern Syria. Now the reason that they say they're doing that is because of the Kurdish situation. Now the Kurds, if you take out your handout sheet that I gave to you, take a look at that. I got this off of a website called the Kurdish Project, which is sympathetic to the cause of the Kurds. But I want you to take a look at those dots that you see on the map. Those represent 1 million Kurdish populations. So each time you see one of those dots, that represents 1 million Kurds. So you can see that the Kurds are spread out essentially over 4 countries. Iran has projected 8 million Kurds in northwestern Iran, near the border with Iraq and Turkey. Iraq itself has 5 million in, again, northern Iraq, the area where ISIS kind of set up. And then in northern Syria, projected 2 million. And in Turkey, which is southeastern Turkey, 18 million Kurds. So the Kurdish people today are the largest identifiable people group on planet Earth without their own homeland, without their own nation state. And so the Kurds are pushing to develop their own nation. As a matter of fact, in the area of northern Iraq, they actually proclaim themselves to be an independent state called Kurdistan. But Turkey and some of the other nations, particularly Iran and Turkey, are very concerned about the Kurdish population living within their borders, because they know that the Kurds want to develop their own nation state. And that has a lot of significance for those countries. Turkey, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, has been doing a lot of things of note lately, and he has been on record as saying that he wants to keep the Kurds from developing any further within the borders of Turkey. He doesn't want to see them develop their own nation state, and so he has constantly been essentially attacking within his own country up until this point, the Kurds, suppressing them, rounding them up, calling some of their groups terrorist groups. Whether some of that is true or not is up for debate. However, he is very concerned about the Kurdish problem within the borders of his country. He's also concerned with the developments going on in northern Iraq and northern Syria, because there are pockets of land areas in those two countries, northern Syria, northern Iraq, where the Kurds are growing and taking over land area. As a matter of fact, the United States, in its fight against ISIS, were partnering with the Kurds in northern Iraq and in northern Syria to help fight against ISIS. Now that ISIS has been essentially suppressed, at least to this point, the Kurds have gained land area in northern Iraq and northern Syria, and they would like to unify, connect those land areas, because they'll be stronger, and Turkey is very worried that this is happening right under their southern border. They already have a problem, they think, within their own country with the Kurds. Now they're thinking in the neighboring countries of Syria and Iraq, you're going to have a strong Kurdish population there that is uniting its land areas. So Turkey has gone into northern Syria, into an area that is right now in northwestern Syria. However, they went in calling it Operation Olive Branch. Isn't that an interesting choice of words, Olive Branch? However, as they've gone in, they said, we're just going in to make sure that our citizens are protected on our side of the border, because we don't want these Kurdish forces, they call them terrorist Kurdish forces, right across the border setting up shop in Syria. And so under that guise, Turkey has gone into northern Syria with their troops and the military. However, now that they're in there, they say, well, we want to move a little bit further to the east in Syria. And this is where things get very interesting, because there is a town there called Manbij, M-A-N-B-I-J, and it just so happens that the United States has set up military shop in that town. And that is directly in the path of the way the Turks want to move to take over and to push back the Kurdish advances in that part of northern Syria. So the Turks have said to the Americans, to our military, we want you to leave because, of course, we don't want a conflict with the Americans, the Turks are saying. We want you to leave so we can come in, take over, push out the Kurds, and continue to move towards the border with Iraq. Now, what this is tantamount to is Turkey saying, we want to reestablish areas of land that was ours when we were called the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Turkey has aspirations to go back to, or to revert back to, what they think is their greatness, the greatest manifestation of the Ottoman Empire, which had area that they controlled, land areas in northern Syria and Iraq. They controlled a much larger portion of the Middle East too, all the way including Israel, including Egypt, actually including the western edge of the Arabian Peninsula, all the way down to Mecca and Medina. So the Ottoman Empire was dominating from 1517 to 1917, and they want to reestablish the greatness of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is not shy about saying that he wants to do exactly that. So the president of France, just in the last couple of days, has said, we're very concerned with what Turkey wants to do. We hope that they don't have intentions to move further into Syria with their military than what they have announced that they want to do. Of course, the Americans are watching carefully as well. Why do I tell you all this? It's not just an academic exercise in geography or demographics or all of those things. This is a spiritual conflict, and I believe it's setting the groundwork for what will be coming in the last days. If you turn in your Bible, and I'll just be brief because I want to take too much of my dad's time, to very quickly.
Not when I'm wearing this jacket. This is my preach jacket.
I know, I don't want to mess with that. In Daniel chapter 7 and Daniel chapter 8, and I'm not going to take a lot of time, except to say that in Daniel chapter 7, Daniel is given a vision of 4 beasts. Those beasts represent empires. Those beasts in sequence: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece. And then there is a 4th beast that is shown, which is diverse and different and dreadful and terrible, far different than the other previous 3 beasts. And we know from Scripture that that 4th beast takes us to the end of the age. So we have Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. Babylon is where today? Iraq. Medo-Persia is Iran and probably the Kurdish areas. The Medes, probably the Kurds of today, the ancient Medes. Same geographical landscape. Greece would include from northern Greece, what today is Macedonia, Turkey, and into Syria. Okay? So you have Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece in these 3 beast empires in the vision that Daniel has in Daniel chapter 8. But then it skips to a 4th beast, and we know that that beast from the text is talking about a final beast empire at the end of time, at the very end. And out of that final beast empire, you have an individual that will arise called the Antichrist. And he will rule over that final beast empire. So I don't want to get into a lot of the details of what's going to transpire, except to say that we're keeping an eye on the geographical area of where we believe that final beast empire will set up shop. And I would suggest to you that based on the texts in Daniel, and based on Ezekiel chapter 38, and other texts in the Old Testament as well, in Isaiah and Jeremiah, that that final beast empire will encompass the areas that you're looking at on this map. And broader areas, probably from where you see the western edge of Turkey. It may go a little bit further to the west into the Balkan region of northern Greece today. And it will probably move all the way to the far east of Iran, all the way to the borders of India. And I say that, and I'll just give you a little teaser, is I believe that the final beast empire will comprise the area that Alexander the Great conquered when he was alive. So I believe that we're going to be seeing a revived Alexandrian or Grecian empire at the end of time. All the areas, the geographical areas that were conquered by Alexander the Great during his time. And Turkey and Iran and Syria and Iraq are a large portion of those areas. We know biblically that Turkey and Iran are going to unify at the end, because it tells us in Ezekiel chapter 38 that they're going to unify together. So it's important that we be watching developments in this part of the world, because I believe things are shaping up very quickly, and the players are all on the chessboard, and the pieces are moving into place, I think, right before our eyes. Whether we're talking about 10, 20, 50, or 100 years away, I can't say. But I can tell you that the pieces, I believe, on that board are moving into place quite rapidly. So keep an eye on what's going on over there. Keep an eye on what Turkey is doing. Keep an eye on the dialogue between Turkey and Iran. It may be that they come to some type of a conflict before they unify. Because right now, Iran is moving to the west to dominate that area of Iraq and Syria all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Turkey wants to move to the south. Inevitably, they're going to come against each other. The question is, will it end in conflict, and then eventually they will merge together, or will they merge together immediately as soon as they come in conflict together in those areas? But it's moving in that direction, and that's what the Bible tells us, which gives us all the more reason to be watching carefully, to be bold in our witness, because we don't know how much time we have.